Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel. I'm going to demonstrate 3 different ways you can make a Halloween costume either for a child or an adult. This first one can be completely no-sew if you want, or you can do a hand stitch or machine stitch in some of the areas, but it's not necessary. The second one here has minimal sewing. Again, it's just either a hand basting stitch or machine stitch. And the last one has even a little more sewing, but again, it's just a straight stitch. On all 3 costumes, especially on the tops, you can use glue, just a craft glue if you want. For the lettering, you can use fusible web or glue or baste. And then of course your other stitching on other parts, again, you can choose to either hand baste, small hand baste, or machine stitch. Here's a little tip for you. Before you start spending a lot of money, go through old clothes in your home, especially if you're making it for a child. Look for clothes that maybe they're starting to outgrow, something you don't mind cutting up. For an adult, I'm sure you've got old clothes that you can cut into if necessary. Second, you can go to thrift shops and buy clothes there very inexpensively. For those of you who want to make everything from scratch, make sure you go through your scrap pile first. Almost everything I sewed in this particular tutorial, I already had in my scrap pile. For the no-sew costume, you're going to need anywhere from up to 1.5 yards. It depends if you're making it for a small child or an adult, but it's made the same way no matter what size individual. I'm using 100% cotton quilting fabric. It's 42 inches wide. When you buy it, it's got the selvage edges together. Just leave it that way and then fold it in half. If you're going to be using scissors to cut your fabric, just fold it this one extra time. If you have a rotary cutter, then again, fold it together because your rotary cutter will easily go through this. You can cut your strips for the skirt anywhere from 2 to 3 inches wide. So I'm just going to cut 2 inches right here. On the sample one, it is 3 inches. So you want to cut all the way through. Then you would go over that 2 or 3 inches again and do another cut. You keep going down the full length of your fabric until you have enough strips for the skirt. On my sample skirt, the ends of the strips were pointed. So I'm just leaving the selvage edges folded together. Then I'm just going to fold it in half. And by the way, this is just an option. You don't have to do it. And then place a straight edge on there or draw a line and then cut with your scissors. And I'm going to cut from the folded edge out to the raw edge like this. And there you have pointed ends. To measure for your elastic for all 3 skirts, measure your waist and then cut a piece of elastic that length. Then you're going to take the ends and overlap them and put either a safety pin in it, stitch it together by hand stitching or machine stitch. Take the center of your strip and put it underneath the elastic. Then you're going to reach through and grab the other side. Let me get a hold of it. And then pull the 2 sides through. And then pull. And you would keep doing that until you have filled it up enough to your satisfaction. If you want to put the fringe on a shirt, here's how you would go about it. Cut your strip any width you want. This is about 3 inches. And then I've got my selvage edges folded together. I'm going to fold it again. And if you've got a rotary cutter, you can fold it even again. And you're gonna just randomly cut little slits, but you don't want to go all the way through. So give yourself at least a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch, however width you want it. And then I'm just going to cut little slits. And you would just keep moving your ruler or scissors over until you get all the way down to the end. When you're done, you just unfold the strip and then you have your fringe. Look for something in your house that you could put inside of your shirt to prevent it from, when you put the glue on it, to prevent it from seeping to the back side. You don't want to glue the front and back together. I took a piece of cardboard and I just wrapped aluminum foil around it because I knew the glue wouldn't stick to the foil, but it would stick to the paper. And so you would just lay your fringe out anywhere you want around the neckline. You could do it just in the front, or you can do it all the way around the neckline. And then you would just take your glue, and you could either just put little dots all along here and then take it and press it down. And you would do that all the way around the neckline if you want, or just halfway. And then you can repeat the steps for around the sleeves. But make sure that you put something in there. The fringe on the sleeves, I cut 6 inches long, but you can cut it longer or shorter. If you're going to put any kind of lettering or other little applique on your shirt and you don't know how to use fusible web, I'll show that at the end of the video. But if you just want to glue it down, you just cut out whatever shape or letters you want and then glue it, or you can even hand baste it onto the shirt. This is what it looks like when it's done. Remember, on the fringe, you can either stitch it down like I did, a basic straight stitch, or you can glue it down. The second costume has just a little bit, and this is the one that was Hocus Pocus. And it's another little witch costume if you want to make it that. I bought this netting from Walmart. It's kind of hard to see on camera because it's really, really thin. It was 97 cents a yard. I bought a yard of each, so 3 yards total. So to put them together, I took 2 strips of the same color and then overlapped them. But I made sure they were not even. They were just jagged when I overlapped them. Then take your elastic and you measure it the same way as you did on the first one. Then you can either pin your ends together, hand baste, or stitch. And then you're going to take the 2 strips that you overlapped, and I kind of bunch them up in the middle a little bit. And this time you're going to wrap it around the elastic like this in the middle of your strips. This is an option. I used 1/4 inch wide ribbon, and this just gives it a little more personality. I wrapped just the end of it around the elastic to the back and kind of scrunch it up a little bit. And then either stitch it down by hand or machine stitch, and make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end. Then add on your next set of strips and ribbon and stitch it down. The one thing you don't want to do is chain stitch these all on without cutting the threads in between, because the moment you slip it on over your hips, your thread's going to break. If you want to use the netting for fringe around your neck or on the sleeves also, you can gather it up, or you can cut little slits in like I did on the first example. On this one, if you want to gather it up, take a needle and thread and make sure you tie it in place there, because the netting, that the thread slips through really, really easy. And then take your needle and you're just going to weave in and out of it. And when you get down to the end, you just pull on the thread and it will gather up. And you can either stitch it down or glue it down. And so this is what this one looks like with just minimal stitching on it. Now on the sleeves, this was a long sleeve shirt. I first cut little slits in the end of the shirt. So you could do that and just leave it like that. But then I decided I wanted a little ruffle on it. So you can actually do both or just one or the other. Also, if you're not interested in making this witch-looking costume, you can use this same technique for making this skirt and make a princess skirt. Just have them use their favorite princess t-shirt and make this little skirt. Really inexpensive. For this skirt on the third costume, I'm also using 100% cotton, and this fabric is Halloween fabric, a Halloween print. And I purchased it at Joann Fabrics and Crafts a few years ago. But every year, Joann has Halloween themed fabrics. Look for a sale. So for this one, the amount of fabric you're going to need depends on the size of the person. So for this little person here, I bought about a ½ yard of 2 different fabrics. Now you don't have to make it a double skirt like this. You can use just 1 layer. How much fabric you're going to need really depends on the size. So measure from the waist down the length to see how far you want it to go, and that's how wide you will cut this first strip. Then cut your second strip a little narrower. Take the ends of each strip and stitch them together. Now if you have a serger, this goes really fast. So I used my serger, but you can use a regular sewing machine using a straight stitch. So stitch the ends of each fabric together. You can leave the raw edges showing if you want, but if you want to hem it, the easiest way to hem is to fold it over and then do a straight stitch to stitch it down. But your raw edges are still there. So if you want, you can fold it twice, and I recommend pressing because it's a lot easier to stitch, and then stitch it down. To make the casing for the elastic to go in, you want to fold the 2 edges over. Now I stitched my edges, my 2 layers of fabric together up here at the very top. Doesn't matter how wide of seam that is. Then fold it over and make sure that the space in here is wider than the width of your elastic. If it's too tight, you're going to have a hard time getting your elastic in. So you want it loose. So fold it over and then stitch it down. Right here, I left an opening so it's easy to put the elastic in. On one end of the elastic, put a safety pin, again a strong one that's not going to come apart. So put it on one end. Then I pinned the other end of the elastic down. And you're going to feed this safety pin through the casing, and it's going to pull that elastic around. Now stitch the ends of the elastic together and then push it back inside of the casing, and then finish stitching your opening closed. For the top, you can either make a ruffle or you can cut little slits in the fabric like I showed you on the no-sew project. If you want to make a ruffle, make the width of your ruffle any width you like. Maybe for the neckline 2 to 3 inches, for the sleeve 3 to 6 inches. Do a gathering stitch on one edge. If you don't know how to do a gather stitch, you can it just is a large stitch. So lengthen your stitch to the largest length, and then you would pull on the threads and gather it up. Then you can either glue it down or machine stitch it down. If you do not want to use glue to attach the lettering to your shirt, you can use fusible interfacing. And this is called Steam a Seam. And it's a lightweight fusible web. And on the back, are detailed instructions on how to do it. On your fusible web, there are 2 sheets of paper with glue in between the 2 layers. One of the sheets will feel slightly rough and the other one will feel really smooth. You want to make sure you draw on the paper that feels rough on the back, because that's where the glue is. Go ahead and draw your letters any way you want, just freehand draw. Some of the letters will need to be drawn in reverse, because once we're done, it will look correct. It will look like it should look. So these are examples of letters P, C, S, and B. All need to be drawn backwards. Remove the paper that does not have the glue, and then here is the front side of my fabric. Here is the back side. Put the paper with the glue on it on the back side of your fabric. Then you're going to take a damp cloth, lay it over, and with your hot iron with steam, you're going to place that iron on top and hold it anywhere between 8 and 12 seconds, whatever your package instructions say. After you have fused it, let it dry for a moment because the glue isn't quite set yet. Then with scissors, go ahead and cut right on your drawn lines. Now remove the paper off of the back and then just set it aside. Now you want to do all of your letters and then you want to place it on your shirt in any order. You can do it on a diagonal or straight across. Once you have all your letters set, then take another damp cloth over and lay it on the top. Take your hot iron and hold it down whatever number of seconds it says on your instructions. Lift, lay it down, lift, lay it down, and then just kind of go back and forth a little bit, and then give it a few minutes to set. If you want to know how to draw the little witch hat that is on one of the costumes, all I did was I first drew a triangle. That's all. Then a straight line out this way, straight line out that way, and then a curved line. And then you would put it on your fusible interfacing or glue it down. So this is what this one looks like when it's all done. And again, you can glue this down, or if you want to hand baste it on or stitch it down. And then here are the sleeves. I made the sleeves here, I think about 3 inches, and the ruffle up here is 2 inches. And again, if you want to make little slits in the fabric instead of doing gathering, you can do that too. The little headbands that you see, I did not make. I purchased them. So the closer it gets to Halloween, you'll start seeing those coming out. Buy one that kind of goes with the outfit you're making. If you need instructions on how to make a trick-or-treat candy bag, I have 2 links that will be listed below your YouTube screen. If you're a beginner at sewing, you've not made anything before, I would do this one. It's just slightly easier. This one has just a little bit more sewing than the first one. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you're going to try to make some of these things and also throw your own personality into it. Also, remember, they're just suggestions, they're not rules. If you're interested in any other Halloween related projects, check below your YouTube screen in the description section. Just scroll down, click on show more or the down arrow, and you will see the information there. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl, this is Manny, and this is Scotty. See you next time.